we all have different things to say, but I'm gonna let Kyle go first on this one and give his overall thoughts and stuff like that for Metallica's 72 seasons. So, my good friend and coworker, what do you got?
Yeah, so Metallica, as you know, me and JT have done that career breakdown of them and ranking all the albums. So if you check that out, you'll know that Metallica is one of my, back in the day, it was one of my all-time favorite bands.
Yeah.
Over the years, they have fallen from that, majority due to them just not releasing things for such long periods of time that just kind of, the fan base, the fan in me just kind of stagnated a bit. So this album, when I first heard that lead single, Lux Eterna, I was pumped for it. I thought that was a kick-ass lead single. It was great. The singles that followed, I was a little bit iffy on, but at the end of the day, this album did kind of what I was expecting from a Metallica record at this point in their career. I'll get into exact specifics when we talk about tracks and breakdowns and stuff, but it's not a bad album. I'll start off by saying that. Would I classify this as one of their greats? No. Spoiler alert. I think it's a good album. And that's pretty much where I fall with it. One thing I really like about it, though, is that it is an incredibly consistent album in that a lot of it, and I feel like this has been a very rare thing, especially in the past couple of years, and for things that we've talked about on this channel. I feel like a lot of things we talk about and a lot of albums in general lately have had this thing where it's huge peaks and huge valleys. This one doesn't really have that. It has hills and meadows. It's very consistent throughout. If you heard one thing on it, you pretty much know what you're in for the whole record, for better or worse. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But the real star of this record, James Hetfield, by far best thing on this album. I don't know how this man's vocals sound the best that they have in their career on, this late into it. The guitar riffs on it are great. The rhythm section, he's, as someone who's really into rhythm and rhythm guitar, the riffs on this are great. James Hetfield, he's honestly probably my favorite rhythm guitar player, one of my favorite guitar players of all time. Vocals excellent. Lars is Lars on the drums. I mean, you're not getting excellent drumming on it. It's just pretty standard. The guitar solos are very stock on this. I don't think there was a single memorable guitar solo on the entire record. Not to say that the solos aren't good. They're performed well. There's just none that really stood out to me. But I'll leave it at that for now. And I'll get into more specifics when we do a full track breakdown.
Cool. And I know Mike thought this was the best album of the past 5 years. I mean, he loved it so much.
It's the best Metallica album in the past 5 years.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Well, I mean, it comes down to the current relationship with the band in order to be able to kind of tell people where you're at. And if you in the last 4 or 5 albums, if you were on board and off board, then this album will be a pleasant kind of journey into kind of the continued sound that Metallica has been doing for the last 10 years or whatever, and can continue to be, like Kyle said, and very well said, it is very consistent in it's what you get from the beginning to end. There is no twist turns, there's no risks. It's pretty much what you expect from the beginning to end. Now if you're coming from the school
hold on, Mike, one sec. Were you guys able to hear me well during all of that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because my mic, I just realized, was all the way across the desk. Okay.
Actually, it kind of created a weird almost like a softness to your voice that I enjoy it. I feel like maybe you should try the mic farther away. I mean, it's just the
soothing.
Unorthodox sometimes becomes the standard.
Interesting. Well, I'm glad you're able to hear me the whole time.
Yeah. No, if we weren't able to hear you, trust me, Kyle, I would have shut you down immediately. I would have been going like this, God Kyle, no, call it off, call it off.
Quick,
So
put him on
you
mute. Put him
know,
on mute. No, I'm just kidding.
put him on mute. Yeah. Well, we can hear you, and that was you have a good mic. So, shout out to the mic company. You want to plug them real quick, or
If only I knew what it was.
if only I knew. If only I knew. Interesting name, but must be one of them new companies. But yeah. So it's interesting. So overall, I didn't have a great experience with this album, and I'll go over that more so often. Um, but yeah, like it definitely this is kind of a continued bitter taste in my mouth from the missing elements that Metallica has done a very good job at eliminating album by album coming down the over the years. They've eliminated very specific elements I'm going to talk about later on that are the key components to Metallica's sound that once gone no longer, in my opinion, can be a Metallica release. And this kind of fits right into that.
The
That
lack
kind of
of any ballad, any slow part on the record except for one.
yeah. Well, you're right. I mean, you're
Which was a
literally
major highlight of the record, I'll add.
right. 100%. Yeah. There's so many other little elements and things, but yeah. I'll get more into that when we go over into the next part here. But yeah, it's missing very specific elements that just killed me. Like it was a stab in the chest. And unfortunately, I come from the old school. I'm a little bit older than everybody here. I'm tied to that sound and that kind of, yeah, I'm the grandpa, man. I'm the guy sitting in his rocking chair, like, saying, it's not what it used to be, yeah. Fortunately, that's just me. So
It's all right. It's all good. So me going into this Metallica record of 72 seasons, I was really excited when I heard Lux Eterna. I was through the roof, like, oh my god, they're actually going somewhat back to a style of like their original days, like the Seek and Destroy, the Meta Militia kind of days, with a little bit of Ride the Lightning in there, a little bit, but with a modern production. I was thinking about, it's weird. Like I listened to it twice since my initial listen. And by the way, me personally, I did an initial reaction that day, April 14th, for without giving away too many spoilers. It was just an initial, like, I listened to it once. I was like, all right, I got to do a quick video on it. It's up on our YouTube channel. Check it out on our YouTube channel. But I shared some of my initial thoughts there, and I the more I let it sit in, the more I let this Metallica album sit in, I pretty much agree with what both of you said. To Kyle's point of, like, it is consistent. There's no really, like, it's not like a roller coaster where you go like sky high, then you go super down. It's kind of like a hit, like the way the Kyle said it was like a hill and a valley. It's like, oh, we're going up, going down, but not like a steep incline and a huge downfall. Not like where most albums are, like there's a bunch of really, really good tracks, then there's two sucky tracks, then there's a good track. And this is actually very consistent for the most part, which I applaud Metallica for doing. I applaud Metallica for actually putting together an album that was consistent. You know how many hit singles there are today in the world? You know how many? Too many. You know how many albums we need like this? More, because it was just so consistent throughout the whole thing. Now I could see why they chose Lux Eterna as the first. We'll get into the track listing in a second, but I could see why they chose Lux Eterna as the first single to be released. Hey, there's a new Metallica album coming out. I could see why they did that, because it was probably the most. It might have been the fastest song and the slickest song on the record in my.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. I wasn't sure if you guys were on the same page as that, but because we haven't gotten to the track listing yet. But that's just, it was so slick. And I was like, oh my God, that was so good. Where's more of that? And then they released Screaming Suicide and the other singles that followed. Lyrically, I don't know if you guys, we could touch on this more on the track listing, but lyrically, this is actually, I think, definitely like their most, I don't want to say experimental, but it's definitely like something
I'd say it's his some of his most personal lyrics.
Yeah,
Most personal, introspective. Like I said, Hetfield is by far the star here. Every positive thing I can say about this record comes down to James Hetfield.
Absolutely. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Thank you for helping me out. But I think this personal touch on Hatfield, and you're right though, his voice, for a guy who's pushing, how old is he? Like 60 something
Gotta
now?
be at least 60.
Yeah. And
I
his
think
voice still sounds that good.
In your personal review, you said to me he was like 60 something, and he's like definitely closer to just almost 60. I don't even think he's 60.
Okay.
Yeah, but you like I was listening to your other review and you're like, he's like 60 something, and I was like, oh crap, man, you just had like 10 years to his life.
Oh god.
That's
No,
funny
but
as hell.
you forget that though. Like their first band.
He's 59. He is 59.
Yeah,
He's
right.
59. Okay, that's good to know.
Will
Thank
be
you for
60 in August.
someone fact checking me there. Is it happening to be the week? Is it the same weekend we're seeing him? Just out of curiosity, or no?
It is August 3rd,
Is it actually?
which is the day before we see them. Yes.
That's so crazy.
Wow.
So, yeah, for
So
those
our
who don't know,
point still
Kyle.
stands.
Yes.
Maybe have a drink for his birthday. Oh, hold on, never mind. That's not a good idea. Yeah, that's okay. Call that one off. Call that one off.
Bad idea. No, but
Bad
this.
idea.
But yeah, I thank you for clarifying that he's 59. That's good to know. But that's crazy how his birthday's August 3rd. And for those who don't know, Kyle did buy me. The two of us are going to go see Mike.
Oh.
Sadly, couldn't come. But we're going to go see Metallica on August 4th and 6th when they come to our regional area. I'm not going to disclose where we are, but when they come to the stadiums that we're at, we're going to go see them then. So it should be fun. But bottom line, the very first single was probably the most slickest. I was really excited about that when I heard it. I was like, oh, they're back. They're coming at it. They're lyrical, personal touch. I mean, we're gonna end on that in a minute, but that's my initial impressions. They kind of lie in between both. It'd be more towards Cub, but definitely both of you guys for sure. We're pretty much on the same wavelength, if you will.